Hi, my name is Martin and I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open Formula drivers. In this video, I'm going to dissect the opportunities and insights from FP1 and FP2 in Baku. If you're interested in what my thoughts are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're going well. I'm going to get straight into the technical analysis, so let's jump into it. The first thing I noticed was Lando Norris's tyre temperatures. We got an onboard here and I'll just share it with you guys. We'll have a look at it together. For a little bit of context, sometimes I get these shots. I've been watching them in Hungary, Netherlands. They've been hovering around the 110, I think, at one point in Hungary. Maybe that was in the hands of Oscar. I can't remember now. And it was something like 95 in Netherlands, so quite hot. Have a look here, really interesting, 78, 78, 74, 78. A couple of insights for you guys here. Number one, they're not seem to be getting anywhere near as hot as what we had on those tracks. First insight, I mean, the 70s is very cool. This was on a flying lap for Lando, he was purple here. And secondly, I would have thought the rears would spike a lot more than the fronts around here as well. Don't particularly see that, like it's 78, 78, front right, rear right. So yeah, interesting insight. I'll be watching this story, like they do seem very cool for me, but I'll be watching this as a story that unfolds this weekend, certainly. I think anytime we have the C6 compound of tyre brought to the track, then I think two things need to happen. Number one, we need to watch the tyre temperatures over the lap and look for, do those temperatures get too hot towards the end of the lap? Do you need to do a little bit of management during the first couple of traction zones for your hot lap and then, get some rear tyre life later on? The second thing I'm looking for is other teams and drivers demonstrating curiosity to try the C5 as well. That's the yellow medium compound tyre over one lap. That's what I'd be doing. Over practice 2 and practice 3 in my quali sims, I'd be back-to-backing the soft C6 and the very soft C5, because there is a possibility that you lose rear grip towards the end of the lap. So I think it's really important. Keep an eye out for George Russell, who'll probably at least do his homework on that at least. Those of you that came to the live stream yesterday, we were talking about the street circuit rule. And my street circuit rule basically says, look, where a mistake is costly, means that you're going to hit the wall, means that you're going to have repairs and have plenty of time to think and reflect on that mistake, then your confidence takes a drop. And these circuits, street circuits, particularly Monaco, Baku, and Vegas, they're all about confidence. So I make the case for, hey, just get through the Friday. You don't need to do too much special. Get through, feel the track out, survive, keep the car in one piece, come home, come back and reflect on the day. And that's the best way to have a good weekend, I feel like. So, yeah, it was interesting to hear Bernie Collins in commentary just reiterate the importance of keeping the car in one piece, prioritizing driver laps over car performance, and building yourself a weekend being more important than data collecting. 100% agree with Bernie there. It was just interesting to hear that philosophy coming from an engineer. Now, my question to Bernie would be, out of curiosity, is this a philosophy that she has adopted now that she's in commentary, viewing everything from the outside as we are? And is that consistent with what her philosophy was when she was a strategic engineer? That would be a really interesting question, something I'd like an answer for. Because whilst I agree with her, I'd be a little bit skeptical as to whether or not she had that philosophy back when she was in the heart of the engineering. And it goes back to what we were saying in the live stream about driver coaches. Sometimes when you're in the sport, you don't get the perspective that we have from the outside. And so I'd just like to see if there was, I 100% agree with Bernie, but I'd be curious to see if that was consistently her mindset and philosophy. I doubt it, because a lot of the engineers are like, no, we need our runs, we need our data, we need our plans. It's really important we get a read on this new front wing, so we need you to push this lap, and then bang, that's when your mistakes happen. Now, speaking about mistakes, who was the first guy to break our street circuit rule? If you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, close your ears and eyes. It was Lewis Hamilton. He crashed on the entry into turn 5. Going to bring up the track map at this point. I'll just show you guys where it is. So it was here on the entry into turn 5. Now this is, well, let's just talk about the mistake in the first instance. Every time you make an input, and I speak about this extensively, I'll come back to me for a second. Every time you make an input, be it brake, throttle, steer, gear, whatever, change on the steering wheel, you're making a prediction for how much grip you want to be. You're essentially placing a bet. And then as that corner unfolds, you get to see how your bet came out. So in this particular case, Lewis is turning the steering wheel, expecting not that much front grip and the front to not bite that much. And when he turns, it turns, and it turns him into the wall, into the apex of turn 5. The apex of turn 5 is in fact a concrete wall. So that was his mistake or accident. There's 2 points that I want to, well, there's 3 points that I want to make here. The first is that he broke the street circuit rule. I'd expect that from rookies, to be honest. I wouldn't expect that from Lewis. Charles broke the street circuit rule last year and it cost him. Piastri beat him in the race with better rear tire life. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is in 2016 in qualifying in Q3, he actually made a similar mistake, predicting the front grip. Check this out. I'll bring up the video for you guys now. Bangs, exact same thing. So this was at turn 11. I'll just go slow it down for you guys. Essentially same thing, turning in, making a prediction for how much grip you think there's going to be. Whoop, there's a little bit more than I thought. And then it's kind of too late to come out of it. So the second point I want to make is 2016 prediction on the front end, how much front grip there's going to be. 2025, same track, same problem, predicting again the front end. Whether or not correlation, causation, I'm not sure, but that's the same mistake at the same track. Definitely, 100%. The third point I want to make is, yeah, it wasn't that long ago when Lewis broke the street circuit rule in Monaco as well. So I think it was in practice 3, just at the top of the hill there. I think it's Casino, is it Casino Square or Massenet at the top there? Yeah, I'll bring up the picture now so that you guys, yeah, hopefully you'll remember it. So it's this one here, and really damaged the car. And again, guys, like that's 2 street circuit rules in the most 2 street circuit races that we've had. Yeah, again, guys, that's something I would expect of a rookie. Lewis, just build yourself a weekend would be just make the corners, complete the laps, complete the sessions, complete the qualifyings, complete the weekends. That's all you really need to do at this time with Ferrari. You don't need to be so either he's pushing or he's just so out of touch with the handling of the Ferrari. I'm not sure at this point, but yeah, when it rains, it pours for Lewis Hamilton this season, unfortunately. For those of you that came to the live stream yesterday, I was talking a lot about straight line braking and straight line traction. I said straight line braking, the drivers have pretty much got it under control and got it covered. I'll talk about Esteban Ocon's lockup in turn 15, where I think was a misuse of straight line braking. But straight line traction is more advanced. Like you won't see too many drivers using it, and it's going to help protect your rear tires in the race, and it's going to give you a little bit more lap time. Let's jump over to the whiteboard. I'll just brush you guys up in case you didn't come to the live stream, and we'll have a look at it together. So between turns 3, 4, and 5, this is how it looks. They're kind of 90-degree corners. And if you said to someone, okay, just draw the racing line through here, well, a very typical response would be that you get something like that. And it makes this kind of S shape. And I'm saying, well, straight line traction says that when you come through here and you're at this point, open the steering wheel and just go straight for a fraction of a second. And that's helpful, means you can get the power down and bring the car across at a later moment. Do the same thing in turn 4. Instead of, you don't need to bring the car across for 5 so soon. Ride this wall super straight for a minute and then bring the car across a little bit later. So you drive in these blocks, and it's very important and really helpful. So who did I see doing that really well? Kimi Antonelli. I'll try to bring up the video now. You might need a keen eye to see it because it is very subtle. So I'll slow it down. But essentially, Kimi straightens the wheel and just goes forward for a second, and you see the car come across later here. Here's another example as well, and that's on the exit of 4. Kimi just opens the wheel, and actually, just as I say it, if you watch the front tires, that might be a better indication that they're straight for a moment and the car goes straight just there. And then he puts the steering in, and you'll notice that the car came across to switch sides a little bit later as well. So in this shot here, typically you'll see the cars come across a little bit earlier. So that's an indicator that Kimi's, and he gets to this position a little bit late. So that's an indication that Kimi's leveraging straight line traction principles. Here's another example. And yeah, I'll just play this forward for a second because it's a bit blurry. But essentially from this point, you should see the right front just straighten up a little bit there. And the car goes straight for a minute. So that's mad, guys. That's really cool. That's really good technique from Kimi. Yeah, love to see. I try to call out good technique and bad technique where I can, just to give you guys insights and opportunities, but that's really good. I did say on the live stream yesterday, if I had to compare this track to anything, I'd probably compare it to Miami. The reason being, Miami is very slippery. It's all about being progressive with your inputs. You've got the same problems, right? Lockups are very common at Miami. There's this slow speed section at the back of Miami where the downforce is doing almost nothing. It's not significant at all. And you have to be super progressive with your inputs, and you're clinging on to any possible advantage you can get for straight line braking and straight line traction. So whether or not we see Antonelli go well here because he went well in Miami, remains to be seen. But that's a good example of straight line traction. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time on turn 15. I got some notes that I'm going to refer to. So Max Verstappen was the first lockup. Let's have a look at that together. That will set the context for everything. So I'll bring it up now. So this is Max's lockup on the left front. Hopefully we've got a slow-mo here. Yeah, now this is really interesting because, yeah, there's a lot of things I want to say about this. Firstly, it means that Max is using the straight line braking technique. So I'll bring you guys over to the whiteboard and we'll have a look at the straight line braking technique. Yeah, again, we spoke about this in the live stream yesterday. These are the notes that I had from yesterday. Essentially, Max is driving the green line. So if you follow that through over here, he's just straightening the car up lovely, nicely, getting the steering wheel straight under braking, not following this curvature through, which means that therefore he can brake nice and late, nice and hard, and it gives him the most braking capacity. So from Max Verstappen's point of view, tick. I think he's leveraging the right line and the right straight line braking principle. The issue that I see, if I just draw, for example, what Max's brake trace looks like into there, and I'll bring up the video in a sec so that you can compare it. It's essentially doing nothing and then boom, it spikes, and Max holds onto that brake pedal and then drops it pretty much throughout the corner. Now, what it means is that Max is braking at the last possible second here. And I know that because he's holding on to the high brake pressure. Let's call this 100% brake pressure up here. He's holding on to that for a significant time here. And the lockup actually happens, let's call it here. So this is at the point at which Max locks up. Now, there's nothing he can do. He can't release the brake pedal, come out of the brake pedal, because he's broke at the last possible second, trying to use and leverage the straight line braking. That's the advantage of it, is that you can brake late. The problem is he doesn't want to hit this wall over here, and he can't afford to get out of the brake pedal, and that's why the lockup is happening. So brake migration won't help you in this situation because brake migration needs variable brake balance. Like if your brake trace looks something like this, oh, awesome. You've got like 20% brake, 40%, goes up to 80%, back to 40 and so on. You've got your variable brake pressure like that. So then brake migration, you can set different brake balances. In this case, with this brake trace, you can't do that. Sorry if I'm losing you guys here, but if you have a question, just whack it in the comment section for me. But with this brake trace, you can't leverage brake migration. So that one's gone. You could try brake balance. So putting the brake balance backwards to avoid the front lockup, that would be a solution. The problem is it's risky, right? If you lock a front, no harm done. You've got your runoff that we drew over here yesterday. If you lock a rear, well, you guys saw Carlos Sainz crash from Russia 2015 yesterday. That's quite catastrophic. So yes, you can put your brake balance backwards. I'd be trying it, but only in small increments because locking a rear is a lot more catastrophic than locking a front tire. So the only two ways that I think Max could hold on to this braking point, this late hard braking point over here, is number one, use more engine braking, which will allow for the release of the brake pedal. So once you get to this point here that we've drawn in green where the lockup happened, start to taper off the brakes and pull back with the gears super hard as possible, and turn the engine braking up a little bit more. That might allow you to come off the brake pedal and still pull the car up and make the corner. That's the first solution. So that's definitely worth trying. It's free, like it's not going to cost any lap time in terms of drag or anything, because my second solution is, believe it or not, add a little bit of front wing. If you add front wing, it actually does a lot of different things that intersect. So it gives you more front grip in long corners. Yes, that's one. It gives you more drag. Of course, you don't want that, but it also gives you more braking capacity, which is helpful. Now, that would align with Max's radio message where he says the car is coming off the ground under braking, suggesting that just over those bumps and through that undulation, this section of racetrack, he's not getting the contact that he wants. So adding more front wing, I'm not sure what the top speed penalty would be. I'm also not sure if it would throw Max's balance out a little bit, but adding more front wing would definitely give more front braking capacity to the car. It might allow him to hang on to this brake trace. Now, the other thing you can do is just, of course, pull your braking point back a little bit earlier. That's going to allow you to still brake hard initially, but then come off the brakes earlier when that lockup is about to happen and just roll through the corner. I want to compare with you, and this is super interesting because my narrative has always been that Max is a late hard braker, and other people's narratives is like that Max is an early braker, and I'm not buying it. I've got a video out that says, I think it's entitled The Secret Technical Reason or something, or what you didn't know about Max Verstappen's braking technique. I'll try to link it in the description. But it essentially says, no, when Max has the chance to brake late and hard, he will brake late and hard. And you only need to look at my Monza analysis to see where Max was finding all of his lap time was just under braking into turn 1, under braking into turn 4, those tight chicanes at the end of those long straights. Anyway, so Max is a late hard braker. We know that. That's fine. Have a look at this. This is more further proof and further evidence. I'm going to bring up a comparison now between Oscar Piastri and the way Oscar uses the brake pedal into turn 15, and have a look at the way Max uses it as well. So I'll just go back to show you guys I'm taking the same point in time. So it's right up against this 00 just before this Heineken side, and you can use the curb as your reference as well. And I'll play it. I'll just click through and just play it for you guys. So they're full throttle. I'm looking at the traces that we have. So it's really insightful for us. Now, who's first on the brakes? There it is, bang, Oscar Piastri, right next to this star is pushing the brake pedal. So that's going to allow Oscar to do what we said before, which is brake earlier and then release the brakes earlier. So have a look at this. So he's pretty hard introduction as well, by the way. Those that say you need to introduce the car to what's coming next and gradually introduce. Well, when downforce is significantly active at 222 kilometers and you're in an MCL 39, you've got enough downforce to be able to hit it. Now, the other thing is when you brake where Max Verstappen brakes, you don't have time to introduce the car to the brake pedal. You're already on the last possible second. So when Max introduces it, boom, straight up as well. So these guys, and I'm just like, this is frame by frame. So these guys are hitting this, both of these guys are hitting the brakes hard and quick. Oscar is doing it slightly earlier. So what does that allow Oscar to do is we just carry this on. Steering wheels look fine. The lines look similar. Oscar starts to come out of the brake pedal there. He's already dropped the bar. He's already dropped back to about 80% or something, or maybe not so much, maybe 85, but he's dropped, he's dropped that brake pedal just ever so slightly. Beautiful class from Oscar. Max, no. Max is still holding on to that brake pedal. He has to hold on to it because of his braking point. Remember, he broke a little bit later than Oscar. So that's the problem. Oscar can now just feed. Oscar's still feeding it off, by the way. He's probably back to 75, 80% now. And Max has to come off because he's locked it up. So there, Oscar can make the corner and Max Verstappen can't. Now, that's classy driving from Oscar Piastri. And that's not the right technique if you're Max around Baku. The late hard braking approach that worked so well in Monza is not the way to go here in Baku. It's kind of an all-in approach. And if things go wrong, you've got no margin for error. The only way, like I said, Max can hold on to that late hard braking point is by leveraging engine braking a little bit more or putting a bit more front wing on to get more front braking capacity. Otherwise, you're going to have to give up a few meters. You're going to have to make a sacrifice, a compromise. You're going to have to brake a bit earlier. But what you can do is just roll off the brakes like Oscar did and carry good speed into that corner. So you won't drive past the braking point, make up time on the braking point, but you will make up time on the entry when you come out of the brake pedal. That would be my advice to Max. Now have a look at this, by the way. Esteban Ocon's lock up towards the end of the session. I'll show you guys. Whereas Max locked up the left front tire, Esteban locked up the right front tire. So what does that mean? If we go back to our whiteboard, Esteban's not leveraging the straight line braking principles that we had before. So if I just remove some of this for a second and we go back to our red and green lines, that Esteban's driving more of a version of the red one, which means that, you know, he's turning and braking through that curvature. That unloads the unloaded inside front tire. If the car going this way, that unloads this one, and that's exactly the one Esteban locked up. So by coming out wider, what Oscar and Max were doing, bang, they can just fire the car in with the steering wheel nice and straight. That's the best chance at getting some more braking capacity. So this lockup here on the right tells me that Esteban's still turning. Look, guys, it is a really tricky corner. Like in this session, like I'm surprised the drivers are doing it. So I would take Oscar's approach. Take the early braking and just get out of the brake pedal a little bit earlier. I think better safe than sorry. And then just see your advantage and just see, like, try to hold, like, yeah, you just got to see, like, if your Oscar is it working? Does he need to find more lap time? Only push when you just feel like you need to push. This is a professional approach from Oscar this weekend so far. Not to mention he had a problem with the engine and lost about half an hour, some through the red flag and not some through the red flag. So I've been very, very impressed with the way Oscar got back on track after his little engine issue in FP1. Alrighty, on to FP2. Let's have a bit of a discussion with the FP2, what we noticed. With regards to straight line traction, so through turns 3, 4, and 5, I saw Leclerc, Piastri, and Lando Norris all leveraging the straight line traction principles. All three of those drivers just opening the steering wheel on the exit, going straight, like opening the steering wheel and simultaneously putting their foot down. And all three of those drivers right up against the edge of the wall as well on the exit. I'm going to get on to Lando Norris's crash in just a second, but I also wanted to call out that down at turn 15, Liam Lawson and Lewis Hamilton adding to the list of right front unloaded inside right front tire lockups down at turn 15 as well. Puts into context then that you've got Lawson, Hamilton, Ocon locking up the right front, and then you've got just a Max is the only one to lock up the left front there. So it just shows, like, I guess Max really had the steering wheel straight, or if anything starting to turn into the corner the other way, whereas those other three drivers, Lawson, Hamilton, and Ocon, clearly turning right through that curvature as well. And the track does fall away a little bit there as well. So interesting. Like, it'll be a story that I'll follow a little more closely. Does it happen again to another driver on the left front? Does it happen again to Max? You know, how many are locking up the right front versus how many are locking up the left front? It's just a detail in the steering wheel. I think that's all it really is. Yeah, just wanted to talk about Lando's crash a little bit. Oscar as well. So Lando at turn 4, he broke the left rear suspension. Oscar at turn 15, no damage done. I feel like the McLaren's got a little bit of understeer in it. Yeah, just the way that Lando struggled to rotate the car through the right-hander of turn 4, and then the oversteer came as it just like add more lock and then go for throttle at the end, the exit of the corner. I feel like it's, if we wind back a few steps, it's symptomatic of understeer in that McLaren. And then you go back and see Piastri's crash, 10, 15 minutes later, not crash, I'll call it like maybe brush with the wall on the exit of turn 15. A lot of drivers hitting with the right rear, but Piastri with the right front. So I think at this early stage, McLaren have got a little bit of slow speed understeer that they might need to dial out. Interesting, because we don't normally see that. One of the McLaren's biggest strengths is, front end grip. Potentially, for whatever reason, we spoke about in the live stream, the cornering speeds are down a lot. And so downforce takes a backseat in many ways. It's not as significant as turning in like China turn 1, for example, from 220. No. This is where braking gets done and then cornering gets done. Speed gets wiped off and then cornering gets done. So some mechanical grip there from McLaren to sort out, or combination of low speed aero or mechanical grip from McLaren to sort out there. Not sure, maybe try the roll bar, maybe softer in roll would maybe help. My understanding has always been when you go stiffer in roll, you put more load on the outside front, and that's the one that's sliding. So you want to give that one an easier time and soften it up in roll. That would be, very naughty in terms of vehicle dynamics and vehicle performance, but that might be a solution for them. But interesting that they're struggling with understeer when normally we're saying, mate, the mega front end grip of the McLaren, that's its strength. So Ferrari also shone in this session as well. I'll bring up the results. We'll have a look at them together. But I thought Lewis did a really good job in this session. He was like constantly there or thereabout, and they were trading fastest laps with Leclerc. And given everything we've said about the street circuit rule and just like punishing your confidence whenever you make a mistake, it doesn't appear to have affected Lewis, albeit that he was on a different run plan to Leclerc. He was always kind of on a different compound of tire. And likewise with Lando, I'll be interested to see how that affects his weekend as well. Yeah, just when it comes to crunch time, like who's got a little bit more. But I have to say, it was good from Lewis. I was listening to, I found a reel with Roger Federer, and one guy in the crowd asked, because Roger's at the Laver Cup this weekend, and one guy in the crowd asked him, Roger, biggest tip for mental strength. And he goes, did you see my Darth Maul speech? The guy goes, no, I didn't see it. He goes, you know, I only won 54% of my points. Yeah, the guy goes, okay. So Roger's saying you're gonna fail. You're gonna get beaten in some points, but it's how well you just spring back and win the next one. So Roger's trying to say I didn't win 90% of my points. I only won 54% of my points overall in his career. So it's about, therefore, like, you're gonna lose those points. And I'm relating this to the crashes that Hamilton and Norris have had. How well can you spring back out of that? Like as at the September 2025, my street circuit rule is there because it's very difficult to spring back out of those. They not only damage your car, but they damage your confidence around street circuits as well. So I'll be keen to see. I'll be following it. But good job by Lewis to pull that back in this session. The Ferrari looked much better this weekend as well. I'm not sure whether we correlate that with McLaren struggling with the front end. But yeah, I'll be watching Lewis and Lando's progress through the weekend. Sorry, it's getting late here. Progress through the weekend, given that they've crashed. Now have a look at this. Antonelli, Russell, there or thereabouts as well. So Antonelli's driving well. I thought I saw that. He was the first one I saw in FP1 leveraging straight line traction. And this is solid from Behrman as well. He's doing really well, but Haas are up there. So yeah, this will be interesting, guys. I'm looking forward to following this weekend and seeing it looks pretty close out there. And so maybe it'll be a battle between the Ferraris. Maybe McLaren are struggling. Maybe Mercedes are strong. Behrman looks good. Verstappen's struggling a little bit as well. Can he turn it around like usual? These are all the sort of talking points that I'm looking forward to seeing. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you could do me a favor, drop me a comment or thought or question in the comment section below. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more racing analysis moving forward. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.